You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. You are here today. We're going to have Dr. Julianne Malvo talk to us today, and she's going to be talking about politics. And you all know that Dr. Julianne talks about politics and the economy. And we have so much going on, but just let me give my station ID. We're with Radio 1, the Lyndia Grant Show here on Spirit 1340 WYCB. Dr. Julianne Malvo is on my show pretty much every week, and she is a speaker extraordinaire. She's been a president of a college, and she is the president of the Push Excel at the Rainbow Coalition Push Excel, the youth department of Push. And she speaks all over the place. And so I just want you all to know she also was a dean not too long ago out in California, at Cal State Los Angeles. So I just want to invite her today to talk about what's going on with our president and our vice president, Kamala. I'm excited about what happened. So go ahead, Dr. J.
Well, the excitement is not the word. I don't know. On Tuesday in Philadelphia, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, and her Vice President designee, she is now the Democratic nominee. Mm-hmm. The votes came in over the weekend. They had virtual voting. So she is now the official Democratic nominee. She had then had the right to choose her vice president. She did a very thorough process of interviewing several qualified people. And the winner was Tim Walz. Mm-hmm. He is the governor of Minnesota. He has his background is that he was a teacher, Lyndia.
Yes, and I saw that.
Mm-hmm. And a coach that took, I think, the wrestling team to the finals. He is described as a liberal who was progressive, but as he became governor, he moved more to the center. He described himself as someone who reached across the aisle. The rally they had in Philadelphia was amazing. Yes, the energy was so very high. Mm-hmm. People were chanting, and he got his swipes in on the Orange Man, and he did what he was supposed to do. People were speculating, who should she pick? Should she pick Shapiro because he might bring her Pennsylvania? Should she pick Kelly because he was from a border state? Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona. This was a lot of speculation, but in the end, I think she made a good choice. She picked a white guy who's a gun owner. All the gun people get crazy. Mm-hmm. Who grew up in a rural community. Who is energetic. I mean, I just laughed at the man, positively. But he came up with the word that everybody's using it now. He said Trump and Vance are just weird. Everybody's using the weird thing. One of the things he brings to the table, labor likes him. The AFL-CIO and the other unions like him. We need that union vote. We being Democrats. I know we're not Democratic or Republican here, but I'm just saying, you know who I am.
Yeah.
So he brings a lot to the table. He also has what I think is a reassuring presence.
He did.
He's a solid. Well, I think someone said he looks like your uncle. Mm-hmm. He didn't look like my uncle, but he looks like an uncle. He looks like an avuncular, serious guy who still has a sense of humor. So he's the one, and it's going to be an interesting time in these next few weeks. But I think he's equal to the task. So there we have it. Now we're leading into. They have a 7-city tour that's beginning on Tuesday. They'll go to 7 cities, and they'll in swing states. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're looking at. Arizona, they're Michigan, Wisconsin. They'll be going to those places. They'll both be speaking, as they did on Tuesday in Philadelphia. They're a good match.
Yes,
what
they
I was
were.
looking at carefully was their chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing. Everybody had something to say about who should be the vice president. But at the end of the day, the vice president is the president's number 2. And that means they have to get along.
Yes.
I mean, after Biden said something disparaging about Barack was able to get past it, and they became buddies. Not in the last couple of weeks, but before that, they became buddies. And so, you have to have some simpatico, and basically, I think that's what she picked. She picked chemistry. And like I told someone, I said, frankly, I don't care who she picks. I'm with her. But I think she made a good pick. Now, I want to talk for a minute about the economy, because I think the economy is a big issue, and it may well affect this election. On Monday, everybody was freaking out. The Japanese stock market went down by 12% overnight. That's a big drop. Why did it do that? Number one, we had a poor jobs report the previous Friday. We created 114,000 jobs when the forecast was for 275. So that difference scared not only Wall Street, but also it kind of spooked the Fed. People have been pushing the Fed, the Federal Reserve, to lower the interest rate, and they haven't done it. And a lot of people feel that that's a part of the inflation. Inflation now is over 3%, but excuse me, it's much less than it was a year ago when it was 9%. So the Biden administration is not getting any credit for the fact that the inflation rate has come down. Instead, especially when you have that man in the mix, you know who I'm talking about. He's going to keep talking about inflation. Now, what I will say about inflation is this. There are lots of good economic indicators in this country. We saw GDP growth, but 2.8% in the last quarter. That was excellent. But, you know, you, me, and anybody else, if you go to the grocery store, eggs were $2 a dozen last month, and now they're $2.50. You notice that. The price of, you know, chicken breast was some price and has gone up by 50 cents. You notice that. Some people who have some means, you don't really notice it. I mean, you kind of notice it, but it's not going to change your ways. But if you are on a limited income, that makes a difference. So a lot of people are very angry about inflation, and I'm just praying that they don't take it out on this team. The other thing, though, is interesting. So on Monday, the Nikkei went down by like 12%. On Tuesday, it was back up. It wasn't all the way back up. But what people don't take into account is volatility in markets. These markets are not steady. You know, if you look at your own portfolio, one week it's up, the next week it's down. You want to look at the long term. But a lot of people are not looking at the long term. And then, of course, I said we didn't create enough jobs, and the unemployment rate is now up to 4.3%. For the longest time, it was below 4%. So people are concerned, but I would just say don't sell all your stock.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And you know, be careful, because the volatility issue is an issue. Now, what others are saying is that because of the fluctuations in the market, people lost about $1.3 trillion in wealth. The question is, will it come back up? The answer, I think, is yes, but don't count your portfolio on my work, because if you see me, it ain't going to happen. But by and large, we see significant amounts of stock volatility, and that's what people have to pay attention to. So, but the economy is top of mind for many people. What the Biden-Walsh administration has to learn to say is to have a compelling answer for it. Because, you know, Trump and Vance are going to keep picking at them up. So they must have an answer. Yeah. Now, another economic challenge, of course, is stormy weather. Hurricane Debbie hit Florida. It was its first hit. And we're going to have rain up the East Coast probably through Saturday. Heavy rain. What does that mean? Some in parts of Florida, people have not been able to go back to work. Anytime you have a weather emergency, it has an economic implication. And you also, of course, has climate change implications and all that. But Hurricane Debbie ought to be something that we're paying attention to. I know many of us in the DMV have Carolina roots. The Carolinas are going to be hit hard. And but they're saying that this will come all the way up through D.C. and possibly into New York. And we'll see. You can never really predict weather. But it will have an economic implication, and we need to pay attention to that. Now, one of the big pieces of economic news is Google. Google was declared by the Supreme Court that they are an illegal monopoly. And we don't know what's going to happen with that. They have blocked. There are many search engines on the internet. Usually, if you want to know something, you use Google.com. Who is Lyndia Grant? You put you in Google, all your business will come out. But there are other search engines, and Google has prevented people from using those search engines. So that's a monopoly. Yeah. I mean, there's several other search engines that you could use. But if you have Google on your machine, they somehow block you, because there's another one called DuckDuckGo or something like that, and you'll be blocked. So that's an illegal monopoly. Now, what's going to happen, the court did not say anything, nor have the monitors said anything about what should happen, but there will be other hearings. But this is one of our largest companies, and it's, again, economic implications. What's going to happen? Are they going to break courts in the past have broken large companies up. So, okay, we're going to have Google 1 and Google 2, and you can't have the same board. So courts have done that. Courts have levied large fines. We don't know what's going to happen, but this is serious economic news. Now, I want to end on a happy note. I got up this morning, and I said, thank the Lord for Simone Biles.
Yes, indeed.
Thank the Lord for Simone Biles. That little sister, she walked away with, I forget the number, but she walked away with golds and silvers. 3 golds and 1 silver. And she did her thing. I mean, she worked that thing.
Yes, she did.
And you know, there's so many lessons in, first of all, you know, just looking at the Olympics and the notion of people being the best in their area. I mean, that's and fighting to be the best. That other brother who was now the fastest man in the world, who won I think it was a 100-meter dash. I'm not really that into sports, but for some reason I woke up and every morning I tried to just do my reasons to be thankful, and I thought about her, and it made me smile. And I thought about all the heaviness that we have. I just talked about all the heaviness in my conversation with you, but look at the lightness. Yeah. Look at the lightness. Look at this young lady who came back from a horrible experience in Tokyo where people talked about her, called out her name, said she was trifling, blah, blah, blah. That girl came back. She has more gold medals, more silver medals. She's a little superstar. Than anybody ever in the world. Ever. And I'm looking at the email, 3 gold and 1 silver. No bronze. Yep. And you know, she made a mistake on the uneven bars, and so that's why she got the silver. But look at her generosity of spirit. Yes. The young lady who won the bars, the other 2 actually bowed to her. Who does that? Basically, that was their generosity of spirit. And the fact that they weren't going to fall out over any competition for medals. They were all fighting for the same thing, excellence. And so I wish that others in our society would fight for excellence. I know I talk about politics and economics most of the time. But as I say, every now and then, Lyndia, as you know, I want to end with something that's just uplifting. Happy, yes, and that is. Yes. All right. And well, your show is called Think on These Things, and so that's something to think about. The blessing of Simone Biles. Yes, indeed. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Julian. We're going to go to a commercial break. We'll talk to you next week, and we'll be back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, you know, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington and former religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus. In lectures on brotherhood, Ms. Parks often said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired." But that wasn't true. I was not tired physically. I was not old. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in. Driven out of Montgomery by harassment and death threats, Detroit, Michigan became her new home. Rosa Parks will always be remembered as the mother of the civil rights movement. Raised in the AME church, she once said, "I remember finding such comfort and peace while reading the Bible."
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it. Be inspired.
Hello, my name is Lyndia Grant. Thank you all so much for coming out to the Les Brown Platinum Speaker Showcase at the Sheraton North in Beltsville, Maryland. Today, you'll get a chance to purchase my tape from my message, and the title of it is Follow the Yellow Brick Road and Believe in Yourself. We can move mountains if we have faith the size of a mustard seed, but we shall not doubt. Next point is attitude. Oh, that's a powerful word. It's all about our thinking. Victor Hugo observed some birds one day. He said, "Look at the confidence of a bird. As the bird pauses in flight a while, lands on a branch that just might break. He doesn't care. He thinks, no worries. The bird sings thinking, I don't care if this branch breaks. I have wings. I can fly." Don't fool yourself. Rain will fall. The Wicked Witch of the West caused some strange magical snow-like substance to fall on Dorothy and her friends as they crossed the last flower field to get to the castle. Running, singing, and in joy, they were delighted that they had made their way across the flower field because her dream was in sight. And suddenly, they passed out because the Wicked Witch of the West had gotten to them again. Well, life will do the same thing. It'll throw you a curve. Suddenly, we'll be down and out too. We won't know what hit us. Some things will happen that we cannot control, and others we can. You'll probably have death in your family. You may lose your job. You may get evicted. Your car could get repossessed. You have children that get locked up in jail. All kinds of trouble come your way. But it still has to do with your attitude. There's a quote by Charles Swinton that says, "It's only 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it." It doesn't matter how big the problem is that comes along in your life. It's still only 10%. But how you react to that problem is the biggest picture. That's 90%. So we should be careful what that 90% is and what we do with the 90%, which leads me to my final point. I'm going to give you some action steps you can take. Point 3, actions. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is evaluate the people in your life. Dorothy had her 3 friends. At least they were trying to get better. Get rid of toxic energy drainers, people who try to kill your dream, always reminding you of their past failures. Ask yourself, what kind of person have I become because of relations that I have allowed? There's a saying that birds of a feather flock together. Ask yourself, does this person bring out the best in you? Do they inspire you or make you stretch? There's an old African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy on the outside can do you no harm. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross once said, people are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out, but when darkness sets in, their true beauty is revealed only if there's a light from within. You have to have strength on the inside. It doesn't matter who you come up against. Your mind will be made up. You'll be so sure of yourself. And then you'll have a legacy. What's your legacy? What will people remember you for when the Creator calls you back home? Ask yourself, who am I? Am I doing what I was sent to this planet to do? Repeat after me. If I want to keep on getting what I'm already getting, all I have to do is keep on doing what I'm already doing. You've got to change your patterns. You've got to get a new game plan and a new strategy. Ask yourself, what have I been doing to produce what I have today? Repeat this after me. This is my year. I can have my dream. There's a survey that shows that 87% of our self-talk is negative. So stop talking negative to yourself and about yourself and stop complaining. Les Brown told us so many times, you've got to fail your way to success. Henry Ford tried 10,000 times before the motor car was discovered. And I always like to talk about Michael Jordan. He talked about how many baskets he had to miss when he was shooting hoops in order to learn how to shoot a record number of good hoops. Goethe said it like this, if I treat a man as he is, I'll make him worse. But if I treat him as he could be, I help him become what he should be. So what is your legacy? My legacy is the African American Civil War Memorial, now a national monument in Washington, D.C. So proud that I served as a project director appointed by D.C. Councilmember Frank Smith. That is a national monument that is now maintained by the National Park Service. The names of 209,145 U.S. colored troops who served in the American Civil War at a time when President Lincoln didn't know what to do because America was fighting against itself, the North against the South, the Confederates against the Union. Black people were still slaves. But in order to win the Union side, he needed some more men because so many of his Union soldiers had been killed. And he decided, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to save the Union. If it means signing the Emancipation Proclamation to set the slaves free, I'll do it. Go to the Lincoln Memorial and read his quotes. You'll see he did what he had to do to save the Union. And those black soldiers came in and helped win a lot of battles. And then what are your circumstances? Zig Ziglar always said it like this. He said, it doesn't matter where you were born or what your circumstances were. Les Brown and his twin brother were born on the floor of an abandoned building in Liberty City, Florida. And look at us. All of us Les Brown speakers are here today. And you have speakers all over the country in California and Chicago and Detroit and Florida. Speakers, hundreds of speakers that Les Brown has trained. Even when his Creator calls him home, look at what he has done. Joyce Meyer was raped repeatedly year after year by her father. And she's on 66 countries on TV every day, giving the word to people. Wayne Dyer, who stayed in an orphanage for 10 years, him and his 6 brothers and sisters, because his father walked out on his mother, and she couldn't figure out how to make enough money to take care of 7 kids, so she took him to an orphanage, and she came back 10 years later to get him. But Wayne Dyer found a way to look up into the stars, into the heavens, and to have hope. Louise Hay also was an orphan. She had a hard life. At the age of 60, she changed her life. So you're never too old. It doesn't matter what you do today. If it's something that you want to do, if you're 60 or if you're 70 or if you're 20, you can have your dream. Get started on your yellow brick road. I was born on a farm, one of 9 children. Parents that didn't have a lot of education, but they were smart as a whip. They helped us survive and with lots of love. Each of us, though, had to find our own paths. Each of us had to find our own yellow brick road. This is a journey you must travel on your own. You'll find the right people to go along with you as you travel like Dorothy did. And even if they don't have a brain, let me just say, long as they encourage you, it's all right. Even if they're a coward, if they encourage you, it's all right. If they don't have much heart, if they encourage you, it's all about having people around you that will cheer you on, that will say you have greatness within you, and we believe in you. Repeat after me. I deserve the best that life has to offer. I deserve. So take life on. In closing, I want to say you have to have a competitive edge. What do I mean by competitive edge? Les Brown always said, you got to be hungry. You got to want it bad enough. Whitney Young said, it's better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. How many of you know that's true? Raise your hands. Even when people around you don't believe in you anymore, be like Harriet Tubman when she said, keep her going. She refused to lose a passenger. She wouldn't allow them to quit. She said, keep her going. When your close friends become members of your discouragement club, keep her going. When they tell you to give up, don't you do it. Just keep going. And don't face reality. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? What do you mean by that, Lyndia Grant? Will you tell me what do you mean by don't face reality? We live in a real world where reality will cause you to fall, fail. Bible scholars, remember the story of Peter who was walking on water towards Jesus? He looked down and began to focus on the here and now. And then he began to sink because he wasn't the one causing him to walk on water. Jesus was. He should have kept his eyes on Jesus where his strength was coming from. Keep looking towards your future. Keep your mind on your goals in your future. And keep going past the no's until you find someone to say yes. Show lots of love like the Tin Man. Be brave like the lion. And increase your knowledge base with your brain like the scarecrow. Don't want the same results in your life? Then don't tell that negative story. If you want your goal to become a reality, then tell your new story and give life to your dreams. Follow the yellow brick road if you believe. And I always close with this. Words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect. So be careful what you send out. You do become what you think about. And Scripture says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. From the Lyndia Grant Show, I thank you for tuning in. Until next week, good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.